Good morning, St. Francis. Good morning, people of God. It is Monday, the 11th day of August, 2025. It is Monday of the 19th week of the year, the 19th week in Ordinary Time, but it is also today the great feast of St. Clare, the first Franciscan woman. She is a solemnity among the Poor Clare communities, among the Franciscan women's communities, but for us, for the men's communities and for the rest of us, she operates as a feast. The Universal Church recognizes her as only a memorial, but of course, as Franciscans, we're going to up that a little bit more. So, honoring St. Clare, the woman of integrity, of power, of passion, the woman who desired to live the ideal of St. Francis, but also in her own way. A woman who did not accept to be ruled by men, to be governed by men, to be judged by men, to be determined by men in many ways. She is the one of the first women. In fact, I think she is the first woman to write her own rule for a women's community to live in. Not a rule that is copied from a men's rule, and a rule that may be similar in some ways to St. Francis's, but is also written in her own way with her own perspective. And she fought many years for acceptance of that rule, and it wasn't until just before her death that rule becomes accepted, so that she and her sisters may live as she believed God was directing them to live, again, in this great spirit of renewal and revival that St. Francis and her began. So we honor today, all women of integrity and the power of women within the church, again, to direct and to guide, especially in those places where men do not have the wisdom to do so, so that together, we may all continue to listen to the Holy Spirit and move forward, together in our lives as people of faith until that moment in which Christ is all in all. There are special readings for Clare today, but again, I don't have it because I don't have the Franciscan lectionary. So our readings for this day, that we will use, again, continuing to honor Clare in our hearts and in our minds. Deuteronomy is where we are now in this great journey of the people of Israel from slavery to freedom with Moses. And now we come to this moment at which the Israelites are about to enter into the promised land. Again, Moses cannot do so because he's being punished by God for hitting a rock twice rather than hitting a rock once, so that water will be given to the Israelites who are dying of thirst. It doesn't make any sense, but this is how it is with God. And Israel, and Moses reminds Israel just what its duty is, to be, which is to remember always the moment of oppression and hardship they experienced and how God freed them, and therefore they are never to bring hardship or oppression on themselves or anyone, and especially the understanding of the stranger and the alien in their midst, because that is how they lived for so many years in Egypt, as strangers and aliens, and no one cared for them, after a while. And so now they must rectify that always through an example of care for each other. Again, this is how all of us, again, are called to act in so many ways. Is again, not as people who are looking out only for ourselves, but especially for those around us who find ourselves in difficult circumstances and difficult straits. How is it that we can reach out and help to make those lives better? Because that in many ways makes our own life better. We are all strangers and aliens to one degree or another, and so remembering, the power of what it means to reach out and support and care for each other is something that's going to be a hallmark of Israel, different from all other ancient communities, and something that Moses asks Israel to remember as it moves into receiving the promise that God has held out for it of coming back to the land that they had left many years ago. Again, and this passage ends with Moses reminding the people that as Abraham was promised, a great nation with descendants as numerous as the stars of the sky, so too has it happened here. 70, of you have left Israel many years ago to go to Egypt for help. Now you return again as numerous as the stars of the sky or the sands on the seashore. Again, the wonder and beauty of what God can do, for those who are faithful. In the gospel today, oh dear, because I was forgetting about it. Oh, yes, in the gospel today, we have a very interesting kind of, moment in Matthew's gospel where there's a prediction of the passion and the resurrection, but people only hear the passion, and so the disciples are overcome with grief. But Jesus also said he'll rise, but nobody listens to what that is or what that means. But then it goes on again to following a duty that the culture and society have laid out for its people at that time, and that was paying the temple tax. And generally, who pays the temple tax? The question is asked, and that's usually the strangers and the aliens. Among them, the Jews who are good Jews do not pay this tax. It's always given to those who are the non-Jews among them. And Jesus says, so should we pay the temple tax, or not? Or it's asked to Jesus, should we pay the temple tax or not? Peter leaders ask the same kind of question. And, Jesus's response is, if they want you to pay a tax, don't offer offense, do what you can do, don't try to overturn society, don't try to overturn, the values, and what's going on right away. Don't cause conflict, if it's needless, don't cause, trouble if it can be avoided. And so, basically he says, let's pay the tax because they want us to pay it, but you'll find a coin in a fish that's going to be worth twice the amount of the tax, and you're going to give that to them and let them think about, what it is that they're asking for, why they're asking for it to begin with. Again, it's always the question, parishes that ask for money for help in collections and things like that. How do you give? What do you give? When should you give? Again, you give what you can, and you give what you can in order to continue, the good work that is asked. But it's important to avoid not giving because you want to hurt somebody, or not giving because you want to make a statement, or not giving because you want, some trouble, to be unleashed. That's not good. That's not healthy for us. To give as we can and to give without causing offense, again, is another hallmark of what it means to be a believer in this world. A blessed day of Clare, St. Francis and people of God. May the Lord give you his peace.